Meanwhile, congratulations are in order because Canada's Justin Trudeau has done the impossible. He has turned a fringe anti-vax movement in Canada into a global campaign. I'm talking about the Freedom Convoy. It started around late January. Thousands of Canadian truckers drove into Ottawa. They had one demand: take back the vaccine mandates. Justin Trudeau had two options: reach out to the protesters or crack down. Well, Trudeau invented a third option. He fled. First, he was silent for days. Then he tweeted from his secret location. He refused any kind of talks with the anti-vaxxers, which is fair enough. But Trudeau's decision came late. By now, the truckers had besieged the capital. They had blocked major highways with the United States. Trudeau's confusion allowed this protest to grow. And this is the result: a global campaign. Freedom convoys are popping up all over the world now, in Israel, in Belgium, America, France, Australia. They're all demanding the same thing: no vaccine mandates. Let me show you what's happening in Europe. The convoy kicked off in Paris. Hundreds of cars arrived at the Arc de Triomphe. And they kept blaring their horns. They unfurled the French flag. It was complete chaos. Soon the police were deployed. The protesters were cleared with tear gas and batons. Take a look at how it played out. The Freedom Convoy was driven out of Paris. Their next stop was Brussels. Dozens of cops are stationed outside the European Union headquarters. Checkpoints were set up en route to the Belgian capital. Clearly, Europe is bracing for chaos. In Greece, the protest took a different form. Thousands of unvaccinated health workers marched through Athens. They sang, they danced. But don't be fooled by their displays. At the end of the day, these people are anti-science. They're putting themselves and others at risk. The Freedom Convoy is the perfect setting for America's far-right groups. In fact, they've already joined in. American truckers are planning to mimic their Canadian counterparts. If Canada's protests were so disruptive, you can only imagine what will happen in the US. There are two takeaways from this movement. Number one, it exposes the West's unscientific and arrogant temperament. Just think about it. You have millions of vaccines locked up. You have the power to end this pandemic, yet your people are driving so-called freedom convoys. They're fighting against vaccination. Clearly, the messaging and leadership failed. And number two, it exposes the hypocrisy of Western leaders. Let me show you two sets of pictures. One is from Paris, the other is from the US-Canada border. In both places, the police cracked down. There was tear gas, there was intimidation, there were clashes. Do you know what was missing? The lectures on morality, no statement condemning the government response, no request to talk with the protesters. In fact, most Western countries demanded the opposite.
President Biden and I both agree that for the security of people and the economy, these blockades cannot continue. So make no mistake, the border cannot and will not remain closed. Everything is on the table because this unlawful activity has to end, and it will end.
How convenient is that? When blockades happen in Canada, they're unlawful. When they happen in India, it's freedom of expression. The fact is, law and order is supreme. Whether in India, Canada, France or South Africa. It's time the West realized this. Imagine if these pictures were from Baghdad or Cairo or New Delhi. Trudeau would have been rallying on Twitter. Joe Biden would have been lecturing from the White House. But in this case, they are in full agreement. The protests must end. The border must be reopened. And just to be clear, we're not saying that Trudeau's decision is wrong. Cutting off highways is totally unacceptable. We are saying the same principle should apply to every country. If Canada's blockades are illegal, so are India's. If Canada can use the police to restore daily life, so can India. That is what the West must realize and accept. Instead, Justin Trudeau dabbled in confusion. He hid, he condemned, but he never acted decisively, and decisive does not just mean crackdowns. Even talks can be a decisive option. By opting for neither, Trudeau let this movement grow. He made heroes out of these anti-science hooligans. It's ironic if you think about it. The poster boy of woke sparks a global anti-vax movement. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.